Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about an apartment complex in Santa Monica that seems to be absolutely plagued by a guy who refuses to wear clothes, who is escalating in his behavior, and of course, a legal system that never holds this guy accountable for his actions, no matter how crazy he actually gets. It's an absolutely insane story, and I also want you to keep in mind what these people are likely paying for rent in this apartment complex and still having to deal with this. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
Residents of a Santa Monica apartment building say they are living in fear, terrorized by a man who walks around naked at all hours of the day and night.
So right off the top, I gotta say thank you to the video editing gods that created the blur effect in order to make sure that none of us have to actually see what is going on in this Santa Monica parking lot that is attached to this apartment complex. The second thing that I need to do, because unfortunately this description from the local news is nowhere near good enough, is let people know who might be listening to this show in podcasting form, links in the description, that this guy isn't just walking around naked in the parking lot. He is weirdly and aggressively pacing around naked in this parking lot, and that makes it all the more troubling, all the more scary. It looks like this guy isn't just a regular nudist or anything like that. Maybe somebody celebrating the month of June where walking around completely naked is perfectly acceptable in public. This guy looks completely out of his mind, and it's really unfortunate because mental illness like this is completely allowed to go unchecked in the state of California. Again, they have all these different various laws and these woke district attorneys that protect people like this, and the effect of this is that all these different neighbors feel terrorized by this guy who can't keep his pants on, quite literally.
Hi there, you guys. Yes, these residents don't think it's fair that they have to live in fear every day of their lives, nor do they think it's fair that their children are being subjected to his nakedness and deplorable acts, and they're wondering what is it going to take before some sort of permanent action can be taken to protect them.
So the local news reporter gives us a good summary of the temperature of the people in the building, how they feel about this. They have kids, and they have to constantly be exposed to this individual. But there's actually a third element in this story that I haven't talked about. It's not the crazy mentally ill person. It's not the lax California law enforcement system that has been instituted on purpose that allows this to go unchecked. It's actually the third party, which is the landlord, the owner of the building, that honestly does not want people to be talking about this and is participating in sweeping this under the rug.
I'm going inside my house and you're walking through the building naked. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let me in the gate. I live here.
So right here, you have somebody following this individual into the pool area. Again, it's supposed to be a joint amenity for all these people. And the guy is obviously completely naked. And by the way, inside that area, there's also additional people there. And on top of the fact that he refuses to wear clothes, he is also locking her out of an amenity that is a part of her own apartment because he is being confronted by this resident of this apartment. And again, this is a minimal example of the poor behavior that this guy is engaging in. And when you see all these different patterns of escalation and then the consequences, if you can even call them that this guy has suffered, you're going to realize that there is a complete misalignment with what is happening and what should be happening. But again, remember what I said earlier about how the landlord is engaged in essentially covering this up, sweeping this under the rug, because every single person that is interviewed has their identity hidden. And at first, I thought it was due to the fact that this resident was here and they feared retaliation from him, but I can assure you it is a fear of retaliation from the landlord.
Some Santa Monica residents say they're being terrorized at their apartment complex on 20th Street near Pico by this naked neighbor.
I'm in fear for my life.
So here you have a woman saying that she is in fear of her life, and then they give you a brief summary of the things that this guy is engaged in. And again, his behavior is escalating. It's getting worse, not better.
They tell us he walks around their complex naked morning, noon, and night, violently screaming obscenities and destroying his apartment inside and out.
And I see things thrown out.
Now, it is quite notable that this guy is destroying his own apartment. He is trashing the outside of his apartment. He's causing all these different problems for the tenants, but while he is free to bear it all all the time in this apartment complex. The people who are talking to the local media, they're absolutely terrified of their identity being revealed in this situation because they're the ones who are going to face consequences from the landlord who doesn't want this situation to spiral out of control. Now, this seems absolutely crazy to me because this guy should be evicted. The landlord's number one goal should be to get this person out. But of course, California eviction laws are absolutely crazy, much like other liberal blue cities. So it's actually incredibly difficult to get the naked man out of the household or out of the apartment, even though he's terrorizing all the other tenants.
He defecates in the parking stalls. Whatever he uses to wipe himself, he brings it throughout here.
So yeah, I'm really sorry for everybody out there in the audience. I genuinely apologize for me to you for the visual that woman just gave you, but I just wanted you to understand how dire this situation is. Again, he'll wipe himself, and for YouTube's term of service, we'll pretend he's wiping sweat off his shoulder, and then he'll discard those shoulder wipes in the pool area, all over this particular area. He has no regard for anybody else in this particular apartment complex, and they just have to deal with it. And again, they seem to be facing consequences from the landlord for their complaints, rather than this guy facing consequences for his actions. And again, the wiping his shoulder is a little bit, it's not even on the top 10 of things that this guy is doing wrong and creepy and disgusting.
And this resident says he often screams at her and has even walked right into her home.
He's called me slaves, B-words, N-words. He's told me he'll kill me.
Okay, so first of all, this guy walking into her home, absolutely serious, should be a crime, should result in him being arrested and facing serious charges. Let's be clear about that. Secondly, him calling her the B word or the N word, I'm going to put that in the unacceptable category. I know that this guy happens to be a crazy person. Obviously, he's in mental distress, so I don't hold him to the same level of account for his words as I would other people. But to be clear, that is not acceptable good behavior, and it's not something you should be subject to because you are living in an apartment complex. That being said, the fact that he calls her slaves, as in the plural for slave, is funny. Like, he shouldn't do that, obviously. It's inappropriate. It's not okay. It's not acceptable. But the fact that they said the plural, it made me laugh. I cannot help but notice this. Now, maybe it's cut in a little weird way or something like that. Maybe he's calling the family, and then that will be in the unacceptable category. But it is quite telling that she has to shield her identity when this guy, if you saw the segment, would know exactly who she is because they're afraid of retaliation from the landlord, even though, again, she is being victimized in this particular segment. On top of that, the local news gave her maybe a fake name because, you know, they're trying to conceal the identity, and I find that fake name to be incredibly disrespectful. I'm not saying anything, but Marquisha seems a little bit on the nose for the local news. So yeah, not cool.
On Memorial Day, residents tell us he began touching himself inappropriately in front of a pool full of children.
Memorial Day, we were out here celebrating, and it was belligerent. I mean, it was out of control.
Now, I know a lot of people have been looking at the Pride videos that were going on in San Francisco on the last day of Pride. They're getting a lot of play on Twitter. So people are saying, oh, well, this is just normal behavior as long as you're a part of the LGBTQXXIIP community. But the fact of the matter is, if we take this in the context of a rational, normal world, you should not be able to go around completely naked, even if you believe in the nudist agenda and you think that's acceptable. You definitely shouldn't be able to pleasure yourself near a public pool where children are playing on Memorial Day. And yet, this guy is still in this place. He's still living here. He's still terrorizing people, despite the fact that Memorial Day is back in May, and now we're at the beginning of July, at least end of June for this particular segment. But of course, California, no consequences for this type of criminal behavior, and it's absolutely disgusting, both in the acts that he's engaged in, but in the way that law enforcement has been completely depowered in order to deal with this situation.
And then last week, they say, he went after one of their daughters.
He jumped in front of her as she was trying to exit out of the building, and as she tried to go around him, he moved closer and jumped in front of her. And then that's when he told her that she doesn't belong in here and she needs to get the F out of here.
So I'm going to take the latter half of that and then do the former half because I think the latter half is not as important. So let's get this out of the way. Obviously inappropriate to tell somebody they don't belong in the apartment. I assume there might be some implications being drawn from that based on what this woman said earlier. He was hurling at her in terms of insults, but let's set that aside for a second, point out that he's crazy, and remind ourselves that he was blocking the path of a girl, an underage girl in and around age 12, completely naked, and he kept moving to get in her way. He's doing that, and yet he's not in jail. He's committing those crimes, and yet he's not being held accountable. These are stories that keep getting relayed to the media because there is no authority that is actually exercising any kind of power over this individual, making the appropriate arrest and stopping this kind of behavior. No, these people should not be subject to living to this just because the state of California and Los Angeles and Santa Monica and all these surrounding areas decided that they were going to be soft on crime in this way. It's ridiculous. Obviously, this should not be excused, but it is being excused. It is being let go, and these people are suffering the consequences of it, and their children are suffering the consequences of it.
They tell us the building's owners have done nothing. They've also called the police on several occasions, and after last week's incident, police transported him somewhere. Residents believe to receive medical treatment. However, they say he's been taken away before, but then comes back and starts all over.
So the owners aren't doing anything, and the local news alludes to a previous incident, and I don't know if you guys are aware, and I know some of the podcast listeners just can't see. There's actually blood stains around there, so I'm assuming something else went down, but he's been taken away for treatment, a mental health evaluation, which might sound good, but apparently these residents have had this happen before, despite the fact that they've called the police before, and he's just been returned to the property. So he constantly reappears on the premises, and the landlords appear to be completely disinterested in solving this particular issue.
We're here waiting on him to come back. Can you understand the anxiety that's attached to that?
Santa Monica police say they have responded to every call and taken reports.
So the neighbor says they're waiting for this person to come back, and it's absolutely terrifying. It's ridiculous. And then the local media cuts to an image of this guy laying down in a way that, honestly, I'm going to have to double block it out with the black bar because his positioning is rather suggestive, even with the blur. Again, the full local news segment is linked in the description if you guys want to see it, but to be clear, you don't want to see it. You don't want to watch it. It's disgusting, but this is what this guy's allowed to do.
Which they've compiled and turned over to the city attorney. They say it's now up to the city attorney to determine the next steps.
Now again, they've documented all these different instances, they've referred it to the city attorney, and it is up to the city attorney to decide whether or not he or she is going to pursue charges. But guess what? That's not likely to happen, and even if it does, it seems like too little too late. I'll still take it. I'm sure these residents will still take it, but the fact of the matter is that this has been allowed to go on for a very long time without any consequences, and it's gotten worse, and this is on the public officials in this particular area. But like I said, the landlord is more concerned about appearances, so they've decided that they need to kick somebody out of this particular building. They don't want them there. They're a problem. They're stirring up too many issues in this particular residence. And of course, who I'm talking about is not the guy terrorizing the residents. It's the people reporting on the terror.
And the building management said that they would not give us a statement and asked us to leave the property.
Yeah, that's right. They told the local news, we're not saying anything to you and get the hell off the property, because that is the real problem, not this guy creating problems, but the fact that you guys noticed it. Now, of course, I'll leave this up to you guys out there in the audience. I want to know what you think. As usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the madness in Santa Monica. Till next time.